He has a doctorate of clinical psychology, founder of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Let's welcome Dr. Umar.
Dr. Umar Johnson.
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 Black men get the white women that other white men genuinely do not want. You don't get the top of the line white women. You don't. You get leftovers. Look at most of our celebrities. They did not marry women who came from the richest white families. Black money and white money don't behave the same. New black money will jump on any poor white girl and make her a billionaire, Tiger Woods. No interracial relationship is acceptable because we have too many black women who are unmarried. Black women are the largest population on the planet Earth. If you can't find one in America, get it from Africa. If you can't get it from Africa, go to the Caribbean, go to Canada, go to Europe. Why would a black man need to copulate, build a family with anything other than a black woman when you have so many black women available? It is an exercise in self-hatred. There's no way to get around it. It's easy to judge people when you're comfortable, which is why I tell black educated folk, because they can be very bourgeoisie.
Absolutely.
I can't stand those bourgeoisies who grew up in the ghetto, got their masters and doctorate. Now you acting like you forgot what it was like to be in the hood.
Where they made the black church eligible for federal money. And ever since George W. Bush started giving black church grants, you ain't seen a black church involved in nothing that matters for black people. If you don't believe me, I'm going to ask you a question. Can you name a single black church in Michigan, anywhere in your state, that is at the forefront of fighting against police brutality? Name me a black church in Kalamazoo that's at the forefront of fighting to make the schools better. Name me a black church in Detroit that's at the forefront of changing the mass incarceration laws. Name me a black church in Michigan that's at the forefront of gentrification, fighting against the intensified homelessness of black people. Can you name me a black church in Kalamazoo, Lansing, Flint, anywhere else in your state that's fighting for economic access to wealth and capital? The black church is dead. George Bush killed them by giving them free money. And everybody knows the white man's money is kryptonite to the black community. But I'm not done yet. That was the 70s, that was the 80s, that was the 90s, that was the 2000s. 2010, they gave you the final straw in your casket. A Negro named Barack Hussein Obama. When Obama got elected, black people took an 8-year nap. And while you was napping and worshiping this Negro who did absolutely nothing but take everything your ancestors fought for, rolled it up, and gave it to the LGBTs, white women, and immigrants, homosexualized your kids, transgenderized your babies in public school, you didn't say a damn word because he was a Negro. And then when Donald Trump hit the alarm to wake your ass up from the 8 years of slumber, it looked like he was back in Jim Crow. Our grandchildren are going to pay for our political stupidity and not making Barack Obama do a damn thing for black people while he overpowered the homosexual agenda and made it more important than black people. And y'all didn't say a damn word. He's the first president in American history who never had to do nothing for black people, and black people let him get away with it. Every president from George Washington had to hear protests from black people. Barack Obama is the only president in the history of America who black people did not challenge to do nothing and did not want to do nothing. You Negroes got on the TV and the newspaper and the internet and told the whole world he ain't got to do nothing for me except be black. Wow. As I close, I want to tell you a little story of a black woman by the name of Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was born in Araminta Ross in 1821, Dorchester County, Maryland. As a little kid, the slave master never considered her to be of much value because she had gotten hit in the head by a weight that the slave master threw at another slave, and Harriet Tubman stepped in to try to block the blow, and she got caught. And as a result of that, she suffered from narcolepsy. Harriet Tubman could fall asleep at any time. So in 1850, the year that the fugitive slave law was revamped, she decided to run away. She left on her own. made her way through Wilmington, Delaware, where the FDMG Academy is located, up to Philadelphia, where I live. And when she got up there, she met William Still, who inherited the Philadelphia Underground Railroad office from my ancestor, Bishop Alexander Wayman, the 7th Bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Harriet said, I got to go back and get my parents. Harriet Tubman went back to Maryland. She freed all of her siblings except one who had either died or was sold so far south she couldn't find him. Then she heard her mother and father was going to be sold off. They were free at the time. But because they were accused of helping fugitive slaves, they was going to be put back in slavery. So Harriet Tubman went down to Wilmington, Delaware, a few blocks from our school, to a white man named Thomas Garrett, who was born on my same birthday, August the 21st, and that white man gave Harriet Tubman some money and a wagon, and she took that wagon from Wilmington, Delaware to Dorchester, Maryland, threw her father and mother in the wagon, and drove them all the way back to safe territory in Delaware and then Philadelphia. And then Harriet Tubman's parents said, don't go back, Rit, don't go back. Your slave master got a $40,000 bounty on your head. That's the equivalent of about $1 million today. Harriet Tubman said, Mom and Dad, you can't worry about me because God gave me this mission. God told me I have to go back and free my people. And if God allows me to be captured, if God allows me to be convicted, if God allows me to die, then I will accept that as a message from Providence that I have done my duty. It's time to come on home. Harriet Tubman made over 20 journeys down south, mostly alone. And every time she went on the journey to help our ancestors come north, she took a gun with her. Because you know, whenever you're trying to do something for black folks, there's always a bunch of coons. Harriet Tubman always ran into a bunch of coons. And she said, whenever one of them coons wanted to go back, I would take my pistol, cock it to their temple. And she would simply say, quote, dead niggas tell no tales, you go on or you die here. And she said, as a result of that, I never ran my train off the track and I never lost a single passenger. Okay. Queen Mother Harriet Tubman said, there was times I was scared. There was times I almost got captured. And whenever I found myself in one of them situations, I would call on Almighty God for a way out. And whenever I trusted in the Lord, yes, the Most High God would find a way for me out of my situation. Yes. And so after the Civil War begins, Harriet Tubman goes to Auburn, New York, where she's buried. And all of y'all need to go to her grave after you first go to Sojourner Truth's grave. And Harriet Tubman opened up an old folks home for black people. Because you know, during slavery, when you got too old to work, they turn you out on the street to die. So Harriet Tubman took in all the black elders who couldn't take care of themselves in the old folks home, and then she built a hospital. This is a woman who allegedly was illiterate, couldn't read or write, but she got a home and a hospital, but she didn't stop there. After Queen Mother Harriet Tubman built the home, built the hospital, she then built the farm to pay for them. So now you got an illiterate black woman, runaway slave. She got a home, she got a hospital, she got a farm. You got $2 trillion. What the hell you built? So then Harriet Tubman gets a phone call from the Secretary of War. Abraham Lincoln needs your services in South Carolina. Harriet Tubman goes down to South Carolina. She becomes a nurse for the Union Army, a spy for the Union Army, a scout for the Union Army, often sneaking behind Confederate enemy territory to find out what they were up to and reporting back. Untold tale of the American Civil War. If it wasn't for Harriet Tubman, they might have not won it. Harriet Tubman was never paid. After the Civil War was over, don't you know she applied for a soldier's pension and they turned her down? She finally got one. When her second husband, John Tubman, died, she got a widow's pension. But the same government that wants to put her on a $20 bill never gave her a $20 bill. And then the Combahee River raid came up. Harriet Tubman was commissioned to lead U.S. colored troops into battle. And in doing so, it was the single largest recorded escape of enslaved Africans. In one day with the U.S. colored troops, Harriet Tubman was a general, the only woman in American history to lead soldiers into battle. Let me say it one more time. Queen Mother Harriet Tubman is the only woman to lead soldiers into battle. Combahee River raid, one day, 750,000 blacks freed. She said, with all the work I done, I just got one regret. I freed hundreds of slaves. I could have freed thousands more. The problem was, my people didn't even know they were slaves. My family came to America in 1701. A black man named Bailey, stolen from the Igbo nation of Nigeria. He was brought to Talbot County, Eastern Shore, Maryland. He married a black woman by the name of Selah, for whom my 11-year-old daughter is named. In 1745, they had my grandma Jenny. In 1774, Grandma Jenny gave birth to Grandma Betsy. Grandma Betsy was born into slavery, but she married a free man, my grandpa Isaac Bailey. They had a daughter named Harriet. They had another daughter named Young Betsy, my 5 times great-grandmother. These 2 sisters were raped by Aaron Anthony, the white man who owned our family. And as a result of that rape, in February of 1818, Aunt Harriet gave birth to the greatest black leader in American history. His name, Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. At the age of 20, cousin Frederick ran away from Maryland, made his way through Wilmington, up to Philadelphia, on to New York, and he changed his name from Frederick Bailey to Frederick Douglass. The next year, in 1819, my grandmother, Young Betsy, gave birth to Frederick's first cousin and half-brother, my 4 times great-grandfather, Stephen Henry Bailey. Frederick and Stephen were cousins because the mothers were sisters, but they were also brothers because the slave master raped those sisters. My grandpa Stephen married my grandma Caroline. She didn't learn how to read until 1909, the year the NAACP was founded. On November the 14th of 1841, 10 years after the Nat Turner War, they gave birth to my 3 times great-grandfather, George Washington Bailey. He became the first black public school teacher in Denton, Maryland. In 1863, when President Abraham Lincoln authorized the enlistment of blacks in the U.S. colored troops, my grandfather Stephen and my grandfather George, father and son, fought in the United States Colored Troops of Maryland, 9th Regiment and 19th Regiment. The 19th Regiment was present at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia when Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered the Confederate forces of America to Ulysses S. Grant. My grandfather was there. And then, on June the 19th, 1865, when General Gordon Granger read Special Order Number 3 in Galveston, Texas, freeing all black people in Texas previously held in bondage, my grandfather was there, which was the birth of the Juneteenth holiday. So don't you ever let nobody tell your children that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Abraham Lincoln didn't free the slaves freed Abraham Lincoln. When the Civil War was over, Grandpa George married Grandma Manny. Grandma Manny was the niece of the 7th Bishop of the AME Church, Bishop Alexander Wayman, who was the original custodian of the Philadelphia Underground Railroad. They had my grandma Caroline. She moved to Philadelphia. She had my grandma Vivian. She married a Spanish-speaking Cuban immigrant, my great-grandfather Cicero. They had my grandmama Ida, who died 5 years ago. She met and married James Johnson. They had my father Jamal Johnson. He met and married Barbara. And on August the 21st, the anniversary of the Nat Turner War, the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, the anniversary of the George Jackson War, the first day Emmett Till showed up in Money, Mississippi, the anniversary of Frederick Douglass's Fugitive Slave Convention, I was born in North Philadelphia. Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess the faith of freedom and deprecate agitation are like men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain, but can't stand the thunder or the lightning. They want the ocean, but they're scared of the awful roar of the waves. Frederick Douglass said, a man may not get all you pay for, but you will pay for all that you get. And if we as a people are ever to become free of the injustices inflicted upon us, we will pay for their removal. We may pay with money. We may pay with blows. We may pay with blood. We may pay with our life. But he who wants to be free must himself strike the first blow. Frederick Douglass said, for 20 years I prayed on my knees to God. For 20 years I prayed on my knees to God, but the good Lord gave Frederick Douglass no freedom until I got up off my knees and prayed with my feet. Thank you. He said, if you want respect from white people, why do you look for pity? The man who pities you will never respect you, and the man who respects you has no need for pity. No struggle, no progress. Kalamazoo, Michigan. I love you, black family.
Came with change, I'm amazed, take the high road. Made the play bet on my game, I'm a splash code. Can't complain, I make it rain, heavy cash load. See my veins, I get the gains, you a slimy troll.